And that's just the price of admission when it comes to running a business. You navigate it, you get better from it, and those who stick out the longest are the ones that have the best product and service, that have the highest level of trust. I notice that there's this massive increase in benefit and return when I do sauna consistently, and I do it with other people, because I think that time with somebody without any distraction, and that's a rare commodity right now, especially in 2025.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to ALLSMITH. Today's guest is a husband, a father, and a 33-time ultramarathoner. He embodies the Finnish word SISU, inner strength, grit, and perseverance through life's hardest moments. And as the founder of SISU Sauna and the co-founder of Hogsback Events, he's built more than just a wellness brand. He's built a movement, one rooted in faith, family, and the pursuit of human optimization through fire, ice, and most importantly, community. His second time on the show, Mr. Pete Nelson. Welcome to the show, dude.
Bryce, thanks so much for the introduction. That was way better written and said than I could ever say, even about myself or even somebody on our team. That was amazing. Thank you so much. And excited to dive in here with you.
I heard this way back in the day when I first started the podcast, and it was, if you can pause, kind of close your eyes for a second, self-reflect on your high school days. One of the coolest things is playing on a Friday, whether it's Friday night lights in football or basketball, or having an awesome game in baseball or track or soccer. And then Saturday comes around and there's like a local newspaper. And the feeling that you have when maybe your name's in that newspaper, or maybe even the school newspaper, that's a feeling that I try to bring to people on the podcast. I'm like, you know what? You deserve this shout out. You're here for a reason. We've been following your journey. So anyway, that's kind of where the intro that might be cheesy or corny for some people, I'm like, you know what? They deserve this moment on the pedestal where they're highlighted in bold as if they just crushed it on a Friday and were in the newspaper on a Saturday.
For me, one of the most important things that I do is journal and reflect on accomplishments, reflect on failures, reflect on learning moments, family, like what's actually happening. And one of the things I used to get caught up a lot with back in high school was when I was a basketball player, I would read the newspaper and I would read what they would say about my performance the night prior. And one of the biggest differences that I've made since my younger self, is that yes, it's important to understand your accomplishments, but it's even more so important for you to use that as a tool for you to drive forward. So it's cool hearing what you just said about me, but what I'm excited about is what's going to unfold over the next couple of years that you haven't said about me. Mm-hmm. And that level of execution, that desire, that potential for me to lean in on God and what he has in store it's really exciting, and it keeps me motivated.
A common thread that I've found, Pete, in interviewing and conversing with over 300 people now at this point, is that founders understand delayed gratification. They're actually very patient, which is why you're able to do things like ultras. You're able to kind of make it to the next meal, to echo the Navy Special Warfare community that we've got out here in San Diego. And before we kind of jump into that mentality, you mentioned journaling. I do this thing with our ALLSMITH community called mental fitness, where I provide 3 journal prompts a week. And I kind of push people to explore, dream, discover, pen to paper, make it real, get it out of your head, out of your body, and onto paper. I'm a big fan of the line, writing fills the gaps within our thinking. But there's pushback on that. Sometimes there's immediate buy-in. You do it because you see the return on investment. It creates mental clarity and then allows you to put things into action. For some people that maybe are on a place in their journey that's significantly behind yours, and they're like, yeah, I saw the journal prompts you sent over. I sort of reflected on them. They're kind of like in the land of comfortable complacency. They're sort of thinking about it. They're not really doing it. And then as a byproduct, they're not moving their life in the right direction like they could be if they were all in on you know what, I'm going to spend 7 minutes on this question right here. What created the buy-in for you as far as true meaningful reflection and pen to paper and taking action, not just sort of checking the box and giving a thumbs up to mentors, coaches, or your significant other?
What I've found is that after consistent practice, my journaling is my rudder and it helps me guide my day. So my morning routine when I start off a day is I'll wake up, pray, coffee, either a workout or a run, followed by sauna. Then I wake up the kids, get them out the door. And then when I come back, the first thing that I do is either through an audio transcription where I basically ramble, or I'll type it out or pen to paper, whatever I'm feeling that day. I answer 4 questions. And the first question is, and not to keep bringing faith into this, but it's like, what did I hear in my prayer this morning? That's number one. Like, what did I, in that moment, pause, reflect, and feel that I need to do that day? So, what did I hear in that prayer? The second one is the 10 things that I'm currently grateful for. And a lot of times, it's completely random things. And every day I try to change them up because it makes me mindful of what's the good things that are happening around me, knowing that there's a lot of crap that's thrown my way that I have to deal with and I have to adapt to. But when I'm reminded of my gratefulness for the little small things, it puts everything in perspective. The third question that I ask is, what's one way I could show my wife and kids love that day? And a lot of times it's a repeated answer, which is undivided, monofocused time with my phone away and off. And then the third one is, what are my top 3 priorities for the day? So in that exact order, I then pull that through into my what I call my personal dashboard, where I have my tasks, my projects, and I ensure that that's in alignment for the day. The reason why journaling is so important is that it is the aim, the intention, the rudder for which I'm building my life on. And without that, I end up finding that I go off track and I have to pull myself back to track. And that's a really dangerous spot to be, especially if you're moving fast and if you don't have patience like me. I think that there's a difference between endurance and patience. I think that there's an ultra marathon business. It's a marathon, it's an ultra marathon. You have to have endurance. But the difference is you could be impatient and have endurance. And I believe that if you're not patient, similar to me, what that means is that you have to compartmentalize and break things up into smaller executable tasks that will then help you feel like you are making progress toward that ultimate goal, versus me sitting on my butt and waiting for things to happen. So that's how journaling's really helped my thinking, my approach daily, and it's also helped really create intention around SISU and my family.
I like those 4 questions. I'm going to text you later to have you send those over because I like the structure that's around that. And something that's really interesting that I think you probably will appreciate as well is I like the simplicity and repeatability. Modern day, so many people are trying to do things and they're trying to be fucking entertained all the time. And like, if you want to be entertained all the time, like you're going to struggle mastering the mundane. And so much of life is the mundane, and learning to have gratitude in those moments, presence within those moments, being okay with silence, with being by yourself, not always feeling like you have to fill the gaps or fill an empty space with music or a podcast or social media or a dopamine addiction. How have you managed that? Because the world's changed a lot since you and I were young and we were pursuing basketball and we had flip phones. Like back in the day when you and I were playing basketball, you had to be unbelievable to have a mixtape. Somebody had to come out from like Ball is Life to like video you and cut it up and do the whole shebang with the camcorder that's like half the size of my body. And now it's like everything is documented. Everybody's looking for validation and a pat on the back. And something that I really like about your mentality is you're just doing the work. You're making it to the next meal. You have that Midwestern blue collar, treat people with kindness, but also I'm not just going to perceive the part on social. I'm going to live it. And I've always felt that and admired that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's, I've been blessed this last 3 years really since starting SISU, that I feel like as we built a platform around SISU and then have promoted the lifestyle around SISU through my personal account, I view it as a privilege and I view it as something I need to steward. I believe that there's two quality pieces to a leader. It's influence and competence. and not influence from like likes, impressions, but rather influence from the lens of, is this person influencing me to live a better life? Is this person making me an actual better person? Are they a leader? Are they are they leading through action and not just word? And are they doing it for the right reasons? I think like that level of influence is something that I take a massive responsibility over. And then the competence, which ultimately comes back to trust, is like, is this person, is this leader competent to be able to, get what I desire out of this? So like when somebody reaches out to me, like a personal question about fitness, a personal question about sauna, a personal question about building a startup business, they're coming to me because they're coming from the angle of like, I trust Pete and I trust that he's going to give me very clear direction and advice. And to me, like through all the noise of everything, I think that those are the two things that I always make sure that resonates and comes out from social, from long form, is that we have to have a positive influence rooted in the right things. And we have to make sure that we're competent and trusted in what we are actually delivering. And those two things to me like help me not only be the person I am on social, but also the same exact person as I am in real life and vice versa.
I personally am in alignment with what you just said. I practice something called API, assume positive intent. So when somebody reaches out, I do like you said, where I just assume that they're like, oh, I trust this person. I want to have this conversation, and I want to powwow. I want to collaborate and kind of play ping pong back and forth. However, just to play devil's advocate, there are people that don't assume positive intent. They give people, when they meet them the first time, 0 out of 10. They're like, hey, prove yourself to me, and then I'll give you numerical values based on what I can get. And I unfortunately don't align with that, but I see it. And I see it through observational learning. Where do you, as a founder, draw that boundary? Like where you can feel the energy of somebody's just trying to like use and abuse you and your experience and your knowledge and your mentorship and your leadership. And when do you choose to be like, you know what, I'm going to partake in this. I'm going to allow myself to be taken advantage of because it's doing the hard things right.
It's really clear to me. I mean, it's taken a lot of reps and a lot of time to
Mm-hmm.
get where I'm at. And again, I'm not in terms of where I'm at, in terms of my mental state, but it's really clear. It's, if I'm going to provide feedback on something that I don't feel comfortable with, it's going to be clear, direct, and gentle. It's not going to be clear, direct, and forceful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually going to come from my voice. It's not going to come over via text or an email. It's going to come from me, you and me looking at each, or you and I looking at each other, or via voice message or over the phone. I want you to hear my tone. And if it also, if it is 100% in my lane and it's a priority, like we'll solve it. But if it's not, and let's say somebody's reaching out and they have an opportunity, I'm very understanding of like where our priorities are as a company, our budgets, and it's easy to say no if it doesn't fit the right criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing your filters, knowing your processes, knowing your time, there's only so much that I could spend on time knowing that I've got 2 with 3 on the way, kids at home, my wife, everything else I'm pursuing outside of work, because work is just one facet of my life that's very fulfilling. But having all those variables outside of work and also having that criteria helps me understand when to say yes, no,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not I need to be a little bit more clear with somebody but gentle, or if I know that I need to strum up more of a relationship with this person to find out more.
Yeah, I love that answer. That's great, man. Because it's not black and white. Usually you need more context and it falls somewhere in the messy middle. And I love what you said. The no's make the yeses more valuable, which is really crucial, especially when your plate's pretty full like yours is. I love that, man.
I think everybody's plate is relatively full too,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, what is it full of? And is it quality nutrition? Is it quality everything? Like I think about like the analogy of the plate. Like if I'm going to eat something nourishing, like I'm not a trash can, so I don't want to throw trash into my system. I want something that's going to fuel me and give me energy. It's the same thing with my time. Like if I've got a plate and that's like the day, and I'm filling that plate with the right things, it's going to fuel me and give me energy. And I'd rather be doing more things that make me feel like I'm saying hell yes versus I kind of want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So getting more people to feel like they're doing a hell yes, and leaning on their passions, what makes them fulfilling. That's what we need to lean on more.
That's rad, dude. In a world that's obsessed with the BTS, the behind the scenes, you briefly mentioned your morning routine, but what does the rest of the day look like? Do you guys meet as a team every day for 15 minutes to kind of establish and filter best practices or the main focus for that day? Um, and then, how do you carve out time for family and fitness and what I would categorize is the five F's: faith, family, fitness, finances, and fun.
To go through an average day when I'm not traveling, um, a typical what I call a foundation day is wake up, like I said, wake up, pray, coffee, workout or run, sauna, and then wake up the kids. I've got an hour and a half with the kids. I get them out to daycare, kiss my wife, make sure she's all set squared away, and then I'll work from 8:30 to 12, and then 12 to 1 I'll run. Or do whatever I did not do if it's a two a day. So if I worked out in the morning, I'll run. If I ran in the morning, then I'll work out. After 12 to 1, I'll hit a quick shake or a quick healthy fuel just post workout, and then I'll work from 1 to 4:30, where then I'll go pick up the kids, and then it's phone off, ideally phone off, and then with my kids and my wife until 7:30, 8 o'clock when the kids go down, and then my phone is to bed. It's away 100%, and it's my wife and I having our time before we go to bed. So we're usually asleep by 9, and so that gives us still about 8 or so hours of sleep, which is ideal. During the workday, though, what I found, when you have the right people in the right seats, you don't need multiple check-ins. Rather, people are taking extreme ownership over their work. We run SISU on something called EOS, which is extreme, or sorry, which is
Entrepreneurial
called,
operating system.
yeah, thank you. I
Yes,
almost
sir.
said extreme entrepreneurial operating system. And we've been running SISU on EOS since the start, and we really continue to button up our practices there. And so when you have the right people in the right seats and you're running what you call an L10 meeting and there's accountability and you're gaining traction on what you said that you were going to do, we don't do like a 15-minute daily check-in. It's really no, like, we expect that you're going to get the work done. We expect you're going to do it with quality, and we expect that we're all going to have fun as we do it. So weekly, there's a weekly leadership meeting, a weekly marketing meeting, a weekly operations meeting, and a weekly finance meeting. All of those, I don't want to call them lower level meetings, but department meetings flood up into the leadership meeting. And then, like, the most important priorities and tasks are discussed there, and we make decisions on those. And so throughout the day, typically I'll start off with going through. I always, like, as a founder, it's really, really important that you start off with making sure that your personal tasks are set for the day. So what that means is that you're time blocking your first half hour of a workday or so to make sure that any personal days, any family focused activities, home activities, finance activities, like those things are planned out and are either you're gaining traction on those and you're executing on those, or you're scheduling time in your calendar for those, because those are the easiest things to go to the wayside as you're building a business because you get distracted. So after that first half hour, then it's project and task work. If there's random meetings throughout the day, then they're sprinkled in during a pocket just prior to lunch. And then the second half of the day is really focused again on either department meetings. If we have one of those department ones, again, CC related tasks. There's no content creation on those days, unless if, like, it's just from my phone. I'll actually schedule my content days as, I don't want to call it batched, but I'll be doing a lot of like long form or quality content work on what I call a revenue generating day. So I've outlined essentially my top 4 revenue generating tasks for the business. And then I time block for those in my calendar, and I focus on those as its own specific day. So
Mm.
those days should get you really excited. You know that you're going to drive revenue for the company that day, and you've highlighted exactly what you're going to do on those days. And often those foundation days are planning days for your paydays or your revenue generating days, which help you gain traction on your business and also helps you stay in your sweet spot as a founder.
That's beautiful, man. I love that there's just time blocking and specific attention to specific things. Because like you said, it's easy to be sprinkling a little bit here, sprinkling a little bit there, and dancing back and forth throughout business operations, revenue generating days, apparel days, looking to upgrade the various buckets that you guys are kind of tinkering with. Murphy's Law kind of exists. And I used to have like really high peaks, like, dude, we brought on like 10 new clients this week. We're making changes. People are improving, da da da. And then it was like, we lost clients. We struggled with apparel, or we had a technical issue, or somebody flew all the way out from Australia for a conversation and we messed up the audio video for whatever reason. And I used to get all like, you know, get my boxers tied up in a knot and so frustrated. And now I'm like, you know what? This is what I signed up for. This is what I asked for, is the unique opportunity to stay calm in the midst of adversity and problem solve. How have you learned that skill, and have you gone through some like tough moments that you're just like, man, oh man, I hate that I had to go through that, but I needed to in order to learn how to become a better leader and founder?
Yeah, I 100% resonate with everything you just said. There's some days where I'm like, man, this is the greatest feeling ever. You know, you got sales coming through, you're doing super fun, fulfilling things, you're traveling, you come home, like your kids give you like a massive hug and a kiss, your like wife is like super happy, did a great workout, and you're just thinking to yourself, this is the best life ever. And then there's other days where you think to yourself, I'm going to lose my business today.
Mm-hmm.
There's other days where you're thinking to yourself, how did we get into this mess? How did this even start? And what are the learning lessons that I need to apply so this doesn't happen again? Man, it's a whirlwind of emotions, and I struggle with it as much as anybody. It's still to this day, and I'm sure that there's going to be way worse feelings down the road. I don't know. But ultimately, what keeps me going when there's valleys versus being up on the peak is knowing that, again, it's an endurance event. It really is. It's not the mentality that, all right, well, this is hard, I'm going to give up. Like that's not in the vocabulary. It's, all right, this is a lesson. This is a failure. What are we going to do so this does not happen again?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get fixated on solving the problems. So to me, as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, you need to always have the main three things always be the top priorities. You're creating opportunities for your business. You're solving the problems for your business, because those are always going to be there. And then three is managing and understanding cash flow to drive success long term for your business. And that problem area is where there's some days where you feel like there's no problems, and then other days where there's legit problems. And then there's problems that are 24-hour problems, and there's problems that are going to take 90 days, half a year, a full year to fix. And that's just the price of admission when it comes to running a business. You navigate it, you get better from it, and those who stick out the longest are the ones that have the best product and service, that have the highest level of trust, that can navigate the BS the longest.
Mm-hmm. So true, man. How have you managed that emotionally? Because you're in a pretty lucrative, unique entrepreneurial like friend group, I would say, with Ty and Eric Hinman, a lot of those guys out in Denver. Some of them moved on to Austin or kind of in and out, traveling quite a bit. So I'm sure you guys don't get as much time together as you once did, but it still happens for sure. How have you navigated it cognitively, where the expectation is, hey, we're going to go do this workout or we're going to have this experience, but your headspace is kind of still tethered to that problem back here with SISU. And then simultaneously on the front end, you have a little bit of anxiety around, man, I got to get this done. I know I'll feel better on the other side. These guys are relying on me, but I also have a deadline and a boundary because I got to go home to my wife and my kids. So when you're being pulled forward, but also your headspace is being pulled back, but you're trying to be in that present moment to hit that workout, how do you do it?
Monotasking. Your focus is on where your feet are currently at. I could think and dwell about what happened earlier or get super excited about what happened earlier, but that's not going to feed into what I'm currently doing right now. And I really do my best to not let that be a thing. So when I'm around somebody, my goal is to be off my phone and in the space of where my feet are with those people. So if I'm with Eric, if I'm with Cam, if I'm with the guys over at Roan like last week, if I'm with Sahil, I'm not focused on what I was doing earlier that day or my business problems. I'm just 100% focused on our conversation together, and me doing my best effort. And I feel like that to me lets me not get anxiety over what's happening. It also not doesn't get me too excited because there's effort that needs to happen currently right in front of me right now. So I do believe that the largest cure to anxiety is action. So if you ever feel anxious about something, the best thing you could do is have that tough conversation or do the work that you said that you were going to do, because it's going to alleviate that feeling.
Yeah, it's well said, man. That's a hard one. I mean, I have it as like a major pillar of be here now. I think children are great at it when they're in the sandbox. They're in the sandbox. But as adults, we definitely get pulled in various directions, especially as the importance factor starts to get a little bit more noise on that level volume dosage. I think it's important, like you said, to really step back and observe and think, okay, is that or is the future going to infiltrate the now, or is it solely going to diminish the returns of being positive and present in this moment? That's a good filtration, I think, for most people to take with them on the other side of this conversation.
Agreed. Yeah. To me, the idea of monotasking or being here in the moment, like what does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? It means that I'm doing one thing and one thing only. And with how stimulating our environments are now, and all the screens and the noise and the constant stimulation, to do just one thing, like that's what humans were intended to do, is just do one thing. And if you are able to focus on this next hour and just do one thing, think about how much progress you would make in business, or how much progress you make in your fitness, or how much progress you make with the relationship with your wife and your kids if you just focused on just them. It's a skill that it just takes a lot of development and a lot of trial and error sometimes. And for you to have the quality of grace is one of the most important qualities to have, because nobody's ever going to be perfect at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very far from perfect, but knowing that I'm my hardest critic and I know like the areas that I am weakest, I know like where I need to spend my focus and time, because I'm naturally like very ADD, all over the place. My head's like a ping pong ball a lot of times. Me telling myself monotasker, focus on just one thing, something super simple like that, helps me do exactly what I'm trying to achieve.
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level. I definitely align. One of my mantras is just narrow the focus. Be here now. Like little mantras. But like you said, it took reps to get there. It takes some maturity. I think you don't find that till you're like into your 30s a little bit. Some of the Navy Special Warfare kids that I'm working with, they're in pursuit of becoming SEALs and doing their thing. Everything is so important. Oh my gosh, my CEO or somebody texted me like in the middle of my conditioning session. I have to go check my phone and do the thing. And it's like, no, it's actually better if you draw the boundary, because then they're going to respect you more. But when you're young, everything's important. Oh my gosh, my girlfriend texts me. Oh my gosh, my friend texts me. I have to get back to them or they're going to feel like I'm ignoring them. There are people-pleasing tendencies that float to the surface when you're young. You're craving with the immaturity, which you don't even really realize, you're craving to be liked. And as you
Mhm.
get older, and especially when you have a wife and you start to grow a business and a family, you care less about being liked and more about being respected. And that actually starts with you. If I respect me and I can look over and have proof of concept that my words and my actions align, and I show up when I say I'm going to show up, I do the things that I say I'm going to do, I feel like there's a vibrational energy inside that starts to diffuse in the character, the attributions of the community and the people that you surround yourself with. When you're observing those things, maybe from some of the younger athletes that you train alongside, people that maybe you're trying to onboard onto the SISU team, or maybe somebody that's coming to you being like, Pete, how have you been able to like manage you so that it diffuses into the world? Because that's something that takes time to get to. In the beginning, you don't realize that. You're like, I just have to say yes to every opportunity and go and go and go. And then you come to realize that like, well, if Sisu is going to grow and if it's going to last, it starts with me.
Yeah. Ultimately, a business, a family, anything is a direct mirror image of the leader that is leading that charge. So if you're trying to grow a business, it's only going to grow to the level of competency that you have and level of influence that you have and the ability for you to do the right thing with the best product or service.
Mm.
So I completely agree. And I think the way that you structure knowing what your priorities are, what, like we were saying before, what you say yes or no to, um, that there was a large portion of my life where I said yes to really everything. And it's so important that we do that because you're figuring out what you want to do. Say yes to like the crazy things, the stupid things. You'll figure out if you should be doing those or not. Sometimes you need a friend to pull you onto the correct path, but still saying yes to a lot of things is important because you never know like what that's going to pull you into. But also learning quickly to say no to the things you know are an immediate distraction is it's a massive skill that I've struggled to develop, but I have developed, and it's been a really good tool for me to stay on the straight and narrow. So that way, when I am saying yes, I feel really confident with it.
For sure. That's one of my favorite thoughts, which is everybody's like, oh, if you could, have dinner with one person, who would it be? Or, if you could sit on a park bench and pick somebody's mind. And oftentimes the humans have this recency bias. I'm going to ask Pete what he's doing right now, and then I'm going to implement that, and I'm going to get the results. But you're in a completely different place in your journey than I. You're in year 3, about to start year 4, and I just started year 2, and it's just a different spot for sure. And I see that in the athlete space a lot around, oh, what are you doing? Maybe I should take the same supplements or do the same training program. Or people do like, hey, what's LeBron doing? Or back in the day, it was like when Rich Froning first created his program. It's like, what's Rich doing? It was famous in the CrossFit space. And what people don't realize is who you become is not the same as where you started. Rich was doing a bunch of Metcons a day. He wasn't always doing zone 2 work. He wasn't always getting out and about and playing. He was doing 7 strength cycles all at the same time because he felt like he could. And then over the course of time, he's refined his volume and trimmed the fat and gotten rid of some of the junk miles and had some more fun. Carves out time for business, carves out time for family, carves out time for fellowship, friendship, leadership, financials, and then kind of microdoses his fitness throughout the day. But that's not seen, right? Like it's the YouTube video of like, oh, Rich is training 6 hours a day. I should do that too. And then there's other times where it's like, oh, Rich only trains once a day. I should do that too. And it lacks context. And social media, in my opinion, skews the brain a little bit for these young whippersnappers that are up and coming around how to be a business owner, how to be a great athlete, how to be a great husband, father. What advice do you give around like you? I'm sure you have mentors and people you looked up to. What kind of questions and what kind of curiosity do you recommend to the younger generation rather than asking those recency bias questions around like, Pete, what are you doing now? It's like, where do you start? How do you grow? And how do you get to a point where you can kind of refine and play with the minimal viable dose?
Such a good question, and the answer is you need context to really individualize it for the person. I could tell them what worked for me and what didn't work for me, But that's only, again, like that's answering the question, like, what is Pete doing? Or like, what have I done? Like if you wanted to start something completely from scratch and take it from point A to point B to point C, there's so much that we would need to understand to get you to where you're going. And I think that the ready, aim, fire mentality is really important versus the ready, fire, aim mentality. I've always been that ladder of the ready, fire, aim. Hey, I got this idea. Let's just go do it. And then I'll figure out the details after. Versus I'm really trying to pivot myself into like, all right, is this the right approach? The aim, like, is it a priority? Is it in my natural tendencies? Is it a passion? Is it purposeful? Is it going to make an impact? Cool. There's the aim. Let's make sure all the details are squared away, and now let's fire and execute. And so, if I'm talking with a young entrepreneur that has an idea, one of the first things I always have them do is you leveraging the vision traction organizer from EOS. Is I have them take their mind, everything that they have in their mind from this business idea, and put onto paper in what they call a VTO. That VTO shows you what the purpose of the business is, the core niche, the core values. You're looking at your marketing strategy. You're looking at your 10-year target, your 1-year goals, 2-year goals, and then you're looking at quarterly rocks, and then also like org structure. And I think like having that all clearly laid out before you press go is really important because it helps you understand the foundation and the roots of your business. We at SISU look at our VTO regularly, but revise it and review it quarterly. And it's important that what we start off with, that we're either in alignment with it, or unless if we're feeling called to change it, that we make it a group decision and change that. Because again, that's ultimately the target on the distance that we're trying to get to and the baseline of the boat that we're on. And then our daily actions is the rudder of like us rowing together to get to that point B or point C of wherever we're trying to go to. So doing a VTO is immensely important. And I truly believe after that, this does not require any skill. And it's something I actually posted about yesterday, which is the difference between average and exceptional is your ability to execute on exactly what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. If I have this great foundation, how can I continue to execute and execute and execute on the things that I said and the things that are written so I could get to accomplish what I said I was going to do in the first place?
I feel that right here, man, because there's that famous video of Kobe where he's like, no, it's not a negotiation. This is what I said I was going to do, and I'm going to execute on what I said I was going to do. Otherwise, when you think about confidence, when I get the ball in the fourth quarter with 20 seconds left on the clock, I'm gonna have distraction mentality. I'm gonna think, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that, versus having, like you said, that narrow focus of execution, having a bag of tools in your tool belt, and then realizing which ones to play with and which ones to kind of keep on the sidelines so you're a little bit lighter. Because I mean, how many times have we seen that in fitness, Pete? You start a program, you're like, oh, it's not working. Somebody else is doing this, let me go do that. Oh, I started down this business, that's not selling, this is selling, I'm going to go do that. And that's like the biggest thing I've seen in podcasting too. I mean, most people don't even make it to episode 20 because they're like, oh, I don't have the 100,000 followers, I don't have the sponsor. They're chasing metrics as opposed to chasing deep, intrinsic, tangible human connection and storytelling, or whatever their niche may be. And then as a byproduct, they quit. You see it in nutrition, you see it in fitness, you see it in business, you see it in relationships. Oh, we're having tension in this relationship, I'm going to hop onto a dating app. The grass is greener on the other side. I mean, we've heard that story time and time again too. What advice would you give to people to really like stay in it? Hold that commitment.
You don't start a business or do something hard in fitness or even start a family for that matter, knowing that you're just only doing it for this far out objective that's 10, 15, 20 years down the line. You just don't do that. The intermission between, or the time between where I am now to that point, which is called the journey, that is the part that you have to really appreciate and love. If you don't love what you do every single day, that you're willing to do every single day to compound over the next 10, 20, 30 years to get to that end goal, it's not worth it. You're not doing the right thing. And to me, if I'm thinking about ultra training, or even just an ultra marathon as an analogy, I'm not fixated on running 100 miles. I'm fixated on running the first 4 miles and getting to the first aid station. And then I'm focused on the next 10 miles to get to the next aid station. I'm not focused on the ensuing 90. It's like the same thing in business. If like, let's say you're an entrepreneur that's a startup that you're trying to build the cell. And you know that when you go to build the cell, it's going to take you 3, 4, or 5 years to sell. You're not building it for that payday. You're going to become an absolute miserable person between now and then if that's all that you're focused on. You need to appreciate the purpose that comes from your business, the people that are within your business, and understand that in that process, like that's how you're being shaped as a person, and that's who you come out on the other side. You don't come out on the other side as what you have in your bank account. You're a direct reflection of who you became over the last 5 years. And now you're looking at the people around you and they're like, did this guy change for the better or did he change for the worse? That's what I take to the grave, and that's my legacy, not the amount of dollar bills that's in a trust or in a bank account.
I love this concept that you've brought up a few times today, which is kind of narrowing the focus, making it to the next meal, maybe on a run, rather than thinking about the in extreme duration. You're like, hey, I just need to make it to that light post. Then I need to make it to that next light post. And you talked about patience being a little bit challenging for you. And as somebody in fitness, you get that a lot, right? Like, hey, I've been working out for a week and I've been doing, what you said, but I don't look different in the mirror. The scale hasn't changed. And I love asking the question, who have you become in this process? Are you just chasing the carrot, or are you chasing the habits and the skills that typically take roughly 21 days to fully download, to upgrade the operating system? And I love that famous James Clear quote, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And what I'm curious about, Pete, is the education system. And if you've experienced this with your employees, the education system teaches you, hey, we're going to sit, we're going to learn, we're going to do education for this many hours. Then we're going to get a little break. So now we have to eat fast. We have to potentially exercise fast, if at all. And then we go back to work. And then whatever's left over, that's when you can, do your gym or have your full meal. And I feel like what that downloads in the human operating system is work comes first. My lifestyle and my health come probably second or third. And when you eat, it's not to nourish your body, it's to fill an empty space to get back to work. And I actually think it should be inversely proportional. We shouldn't trade our health in pursuit of wealth and then later pray and hope that we can use our wealth to regain our health. But outside of our niche wellness fitness community, the rest of the world is operating different. We're seeing the rise of Ozempic and all these different things that are quick fixes. How do you calibrate for that? And as somebody who identified earlier as like, hey, I'm not very patient, but I've learned these soft skills to integrate patience within the pursuit.
Yeah, it ultimately comes down to the hierarchy of priority. And to me, in this exact order, it goes faith, and then my family, and then my fitness, and then my work, and then finance. And like all of that is in that exact order. So when you look at, it's really the opposite. Most people that we're friends with or people that are just out there doing it, it's really the opposite. They focus, like, first thing that they do is they check their 401k or their stocks. And then second, they plug into work. And then third, they go and do their workout. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I have kids, or like I have my wife, like, or my girlfriend, I'll go on a date. And then, oh yeah, like I don't really have faith, or like I'll kind of just put my prayer at the end of the day. And it's literally in that exact order. And it's scary because we're prioritizing the wrong things. Like, and whether that's like, again, it's a personal opinion that I view it in that order, but it helps me gain traction, like, and also creates filter for how I'm structuring my time, how I view patience through the day. So like if I'm focused on my faith, which is like the core of everything that I do, I need to have patience that like God's going to do his thing in his own time, which means that I need to execute on what I'm feeling called to do. And if I do that, through that, he's going to teach me patience. or he's going to help me guide to that next 7-day task or that next 24-hour task that's going to help me gain traction on that thing that's teaching me patience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that faith, family, fitness, work, finance, like all that in that order just keeps it abundantly clear for balance purposes or trying to take on new opportunities. If I have a new idea that I want to pull, like, does it fall in that order? Do I have time for that order? Do I have support for that order? And that helps me make the best decision from there.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful because oftentimes, man, people want what they want and they want it now. And they're going to get it when it comes to some of these things with AI, with content creation, with all the various apps that are out there that are designed to be faster, better now. The human experience doesn't really work that way. Like you can't AI a sauna experience. You know what I mean? Like you have to get in there and you have to endure. And most people that haven't experienced a SISU sauna or a Hume heater, they sometimes tinker in the realm of infrared. And that's where I wanted to kind of transition our conversation a little bit is creating understanding between the necessary temperature to have heat shock proteins and the physiological changes versus what's kind of sold and marketed at some of these like add-on amenity wellness facilities that kind of have a cold plunge, but it's usually not too cold because they want more active participation and investment from their member base. They usually have an infrared because it's significantly cheaper, and they use marketing words and red light therapy to try to sell it. But people aren't really getting the benefit. They're getting placeboed. And I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, when you look at the argument of traditional versus infrared, I've always had a really hot take on this, which literally is like traditional sauna, all the evidence that's showing the most efficient use of time for sauna is traditional sauna therapy and doing 4 times weekly, 20 minutes at a time, minimum of 176 degrees. Your choice if you want to put water on the rocks or not. Like that's the gold standard for longevity, sleep optimization, anxiety, stress, Alzheimer's, dementia, aerobic health, and then also like natural growth hormone response. That's the gold standard. There's also this argument for infrared sauna where essentially you have near and far infrared wavelengths that penetrate the skin and then heat your body up internally. Yes, the room is hot, but it's really more so like the same effect that the sun has internally to you. Like your body absorbs the sun, and then as you start to sweat because it's too hot, it's that same type of sensation. There's good evidence on infrared sauna. There's not like no evidence. There's good evidence, but not the same argumentative evidence that's just so bluntly clear of how incredible traditional sauna is for you. Do I see a point that SISU would make in infrared sauna? Yes. Would there need to be a lot of things that would need to be true for that infrared sauna to come out? Yes. So like SISU up to this point, we've been 3 years in now. We have a very simple lineup for saunas: a large barrel, a small barrel, a large cabin, and a small cabin. That's it. And all of them have super hot Wi-Fi heaters, tons of rock volume. We've got a Hume heater option in the Eddy barrel, which is our 2-person barrel, and a Homecraft Revive Slim 6 option. And then the same exact options for the Charlie. For the Edwin, which is our large barrel, and our Crew, it's only Homecraft. And so we start off with Hume, and what we found is like through our experience and like quality and efficiency and price point, we were able to bring in this second amazing North American heater company out of Homecraft, family-owned business, faith-driven company. And that's become over 66% of our sauna SKUs that have gone out are fulfilled with Homecraft heaters, which is when we launched it in March of this past year. I was anticipating 10 to 20% would be there and then 80% Hume, but it was immediate. And so all that to say, what I've found, traditional sauna therapy, when you call traditional, again, it's coils heat the rocks, rocks heat the room. It's the internal temperature of the sauna that you are in that is then driving a fever for your body to then produce sweat, right? In infrared sauna, you have these infrared wavelengths penetrate the skin, heats your body up internally, and then you get hot and then you sweat. In terms of time savings, a really hot sauna for 15 to 20 minutes is all you need. Whereas the same type of effect that you're going to try to get from infrared sauna is going to take you anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes, depending on how hot the internal environment is of the infrared sauna. So for SISU, as we drive forward, what would be really important as we look at an infrared option, which I would love to prototype one over the next year, would be that it has to be at a minimum of 175 degrees, which means that it would be wall plug in, 175 degrees, super hot, on Wi-Fi, quality, and I can't last in there longer than 30 minutes. That to me would be a SISU like infrared version, but I'm not 100% convinced that the technology is out there for that yet, but I'm optimistic that it will be.
Totally agree. And that's where I think context really matters. An infrared is better than nothing for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. And that's what I don't really appreciate about the sauna marketing space, especially at some of these boutique style gyms, is they just advertise it as sauna. And then they have this huge price point as if you're getting these physiological benefits, but they're not specifically saying infrared sauna. They're just saying sauna. What are your thoughts on how there's little lies like that a little bit in marketing to make a buck, but you're over promising and under delivering as far as the real value that the consumer is getting?
I always like to be an optimist. So my gut tells me that a lot of people, including the gym owners that are putting infrared saunas in,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they know the difference. I
Mm-hmm.
think that they just see it as a sauna and that we need one and that's the trend and we should get one. I don't think that people are educated enough on knowing that there's a steam sauna, infrared sauna, banya, a traditional sauna, wood fired sauna, steam. Like there's so many different types. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like any sauna is gonna be better than no sauna. But with the gold standard being that it's hot, ultimately comes down to like an awareness play.
Yeah.
Is how do we educate people to know the differences, and how can we educate people to know that yes, it is more expensive. Yes, the labor, the material is far more expensive than that of an infrared. But like within that with that increased investment that you're going to get X return from it.
Yeah.
So it's really more so to me, the education comes to how can I get more people inside the sauna and experience what a true hot sauna feels like, and then what it feels like after, and how their sleep is improved, their anxiety is improved, their day to day energy is improved, mental clarity, and that's what I'm really focused on is education and getting people to experience it.
Yeah. It's so interesting in business. Like it really comes to the top of my headspace now being an owner rather than an employee. So much of our world is built around price. Getting an infrared is so fun because you're like, oh, it's just $2,000. It's not a big deal. We'll get that investment back in no time. But you and I both know cheap is nice, but you'll buy it twice. And it's to me, it's the psychology associated with the Ozempic mentality. Oh, I don't need to change my diet. I don't need to change me. I'm not the problem. This is a genetic issue. I'm going to point the finger and blame and environmental factors. I'm not in control. I'm just going to take the Ozempic and get the quick fix. It's cheap. My insurance covers it. Let's do the thing. To me, it's a character flaw. And yes, I have the optimism like you that like, you're right. Some people don't know. But I think most business owners are like, hey, that's cheaper than that one, so I'm going to get that one.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it comes down to. Where I want to take the conversation next is Dr. Rhonda Patrick is just magical. She's amazing in so many different ways, shapes, and forms with what she's sharing with nutrition, mindset, supplementation, and currently around creatine and sauna. And she often cites the Finnish studies that show that there's a 40% reduction in all-cause mortality with consistent sauna use. How have you applied this into your community and helped educate, motivate, and inspire people around that? Because a 40% reduction in all-cause mortality is huge. And the risk factor is significantly low where you're not taking something that could potentially cause harm later.
Yeah, it's something that we've internally from SISU, from marketing side, like we obviously educate people on that. There's so many different mediums out there that are telling people the same exact regurgitated data that sauna decreases all cause mortality, unlike any other uh, form outside of strength training and aerobic, or I should say VO2 max development. And when you look at all cause mortality, it's important that we view that and then apply it. It's one thing to just take the data and absorb it, but like, what does this actually mean? Oh, it means that I need to sauna 4 times weekly, minimum. Theoretically, it's 19 minutes, but 20 minutes, I just keep it easy. 20 minutes at a time, minimum 176 degrees will get you to that 100, or I should say 40% decreased risk of all cause mortality if it's done so consistently over time. So for mom and pop to go to the local YMCA and do a sauna session, yes, it's important, but how can we make sure that mom and dad keep going to the sauna over and over and over? And I think that the glue to it, and this is where I think that the community aspect is so important, is people. Like, how am I, like, even to me, my wife doesn't sauna right now. She's pregnant. We don't take the kids into the sauna either. Unless if I'm bringing a friend over and scheduling that time with my friend, or early in the morning when I go for my workout into the sauna, I'm really not sauning because I don't have that glue of somebody else. Like, it's easy for me to put it off because I'm like, all right, yeah, I'd rather just go to bed right now. But I notice that there's this massive increase in like benefit and return when I do sauna consistently and I do it with other people, because I think that people in the sauna, the best ideas come from it, the best conversations, the best clear thinking. And it's also like time with somebody without any distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a rare commodity right now, especially in 2025.
You literally took the words right out of my mouth. It's not only no distraction because it's going to heat your phone into oblivion, but more importantly, it's in a pretty confined space where you can't be like, hey, I got to go to the restroom real quick, or I'm going to go check my phone real quick, or I got to go do this thing. You're in a concentrated space. You're fully present. And it starts where, maybe the pre-conversation prior to sauna bleeds in there a little bit. And then it eventually starts getting hard. And you have that momentary like quietness. People are kind of scratching their ears. Head probably comes down a little bit. I like to put a pour on right around that time and just be like, okay, we're there, boys. Let's have this conversation. Here we go. And then like posing a question like, hey, what are you feeling right now? Why do you want to run? What do you think is going to happen if you run? Or like, I like poking the bear a little bit at that time. Or we just continue the original conversation. Just it ends up being deeper. And some of my best friends, best business partners were things that evolved through the sauna. And it's freaking hard, but it's not impactful. So anybody can really do it. And it is talking yourselves through. And that's sometimes other people talking me through breathing appropriately, or me talking them through it. And it creates this, we're doing hard things together. On the other side of this, like you said, we're going to sleep better. We're going to feel better, more mental clarity, manage inflammation better. And it's so much better than connecting with people at a bar, or what we previously used to find ways to connect. I think the wellness community, especially in San Diego, Denver, and Austin, I would say is like booming, where people aren't drinking that much anymore. They're coming together in wellness communities, quality food, and I'm seeing ancestral living really floating to the surface a little bit. Have you seen that a little bit out there?
Yeah, for sure. Living in Cleveland, Ohio, again, like Midwestern town, it's a beer drinking city. I'm not going to like shy away from it. Like, I give myself 2 drinks a week. I like being social. I love beer. I love margaritas, love tequila. We went down to an Oktoberfest with our family. Like, we have a camper, so we took the kids down. We had a ton of fun. I think that there's a room and spot for it, but most people don't know boundaries or limits, and that's the issue. Yes, like one glass or one drink does make a pretty substantial impact on your sleep, pretty substantial impact on VO2 max, things that do matter to me. But I also don't want that to overshadow the fact that, like, I do have some really good relationships and like family relationships, like, yeah, that we're enjoying a Bush Light over, like, I think that there's a time and place for it, but a lot of people don't know their boundaries. So like here in Cleveland, there's a huge wellness boom happening here where there's a lot of health optimization. The Cleveland Clinic is here, and that's regarded as like one of the top, I think they call it like number 2 hospital in the world now. I don't know what's first, maybe like the Mayo Clinic or whatnot, but it's a very like healthcare driven blue collar city. People people get the work in. But I'm starting to feel this like shift where people will go out and have a bender and just send it during the night versus like, hey, I'll have a drink and then I'll drink my NAs, or I'll just go for my water or a mocktail. I think that there's starting to become room for that. And the other thing that I to me put more of a priority on is good nutrition and eating, like when you are eating out. It's one thing to go out and have a couple of drinks, but if you're doing it with going to, I love Mexican food, and like that's like a great greasy Mexican plate is like my favorite thing in the world to eat. But if I combine like a margarita with that, I'm a slob. Like I feel it immediately. So it's the floodgates, and it's like kind of like the alcohol often becomes this kickstarter into a slew of bad habits. And knowing and having discipline of here's my boundaries, I'm going to stay within my boundaries and make sure I'm living life to the fullest is ultimately the most important filter that you could have, especially when you're trying to keep a balanced life.
Totally agree, man. By the way, next time you're in San Diego, we got to do a sauna sesh and then go to a really good Mexican place.
Let's do it, man. I'm I love it. I could eat it every day. That and pizza.
That's great, man. And also with how much volume you're putting on the body, like you only get so many calories from chicken and broccoli. Like you're going to need to throw in some processed carbohydrates in there just to sustain the duration and the glycogen necessity for an ultra run. Pivoting the conversation towards nutrition a little bit, how do you create that understanding within community, right? There's so many labels now of like, this is good, that is bad. And the mind loves to like create a label like Pete from SISU or Pete Ultra Runner. They want to like place a title, an understanding. And in nutrition, people are kind of like, you're either paleo or you're keto or you're, integrating this diet or that diet, or you count macros. But humans are malleable. They're not exactly each one of those things. There's certain seasons that I've seen you specifically do where you're like, hey, like not traveling for a bit. I'm going to try to get a little bit leaner, put on some strength right now, train with the boys, train with the crew. And there's other seasons where you're like, hey, like I don't have time to get into the gym that much. So I'm putting in miles. But because we're doing potentially 2 marathons a week with the volume and the running, you actually need a slightly different nutrition plan. You need the sugars and things to sustain that capacity. Have you created that understanding, not just with yourself, but with others, where it's not good or bad, it just fits within that season?
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm very simple minded and everything I do is very simple and approachable. In my mind, when I focus on nutrition, I focus on, all right, let's get 200 grams of protein. That's the goal. Like my goal body weight wise, or going into this half marathon, is get down to 195. Right now I'm at 205. So 200 grams is going to get me to the right spot. And then the only other thing I focus on is nailing in carbohydrate around training. And it's just like simple, easy, digestible, like carbs, nothing crazy. Where I get into trouble is if I'm mixing fat with carb. So like majority of my diet is protein and carb with little fat right now. Around the holidays and times when I'm not training as much and I just want to just enjoy life, I'll typically notice that like my body comp is a direct result of like the amount of fat and carbs I'm eating. So I think for me, the most simple sense, I don't track macros. I just aim for here's 200 grams of protein. Here's a bunch of carbohydrate before, during, after training, and then don't eat like a butt for the remainder of the day. And whatever my wife or I decide to cook for the family at night, we all enjoy it. I'm not stressing about what's being eaten there unless if it's like something that's like completely gluttonous that I have to plan for. Mm-hmm. So
I think the big takeaway for people there is the carbohydrates around your training, before, during, after. That way they're used as fuel for the tasks that you're looking to partake in that day, as opposed to just over consuming them because you feel like you need the fuel. And oftentimes I think there's a psychosomatic component there for people where they've read something once upon a time to eat like a king in the morning and slowly diminish their nutrient intake throughout the day. And there's so much hearsay out there that if you're in the know, you kind of realize that like protein is king. It's going to help satiate us. And then carbs and fats are a tool. But unfortunately, people just think, oh, you told me that was good, or you told me that was good. They're trying to memorize as opposed to apply context and knowledge.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not a nutritionist at all. Like I should never be the one giving nutrition advice. Like my goal is like 80% of the time I eat dialed, and 20% I don't care what I eat. I'm just going to go eat.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm traveling, I do my best to show up to a trip super dialed. And then like, if we're going to an Austin, like I'll be in Austin, Texas next week, we'll get barbecue, we'll get some tacos. Like I want to send it. I want to have a great time. I don't care if I like show up in a photo the next day a little bit bloated because I had a really good barbecue dinner. So be it. Like I'm not doing it for the vanity. I'm doing it because like it's fulfilling and fun, and it's creating memory. So yeah, there's I think that the way, pulling it back to what you were saying prior, the carbohydrates around training, to me, one of the biggest factors is like 80-ish grams of carbs going into a workout or run. Depending on the length of the run or the workout, I'll get 20 to 40 grams of carbs during, and then 100, 120 after. And there's a lot of carb there, but I feel so good, and I'm decreasing my risk of injury, and it helps me then recover and then be able to show up the next day and provide that same intensity effort. Majority of my runs right now, say 60% are easy, 40% are quality or hard or threshold runs, because I'm layering in a lot of speed work right now for this half. Definitely feel like a fish out of water for it. But the nutritional strategy is, outside of like actually doing the training, is the most important thing. And then you got your sleep, which then tailors in. So, and there's also one other aspect of nutrition. I find for me, my biggest weakness is if I don't go to sleep on time, I'm that late night eater. Like I'll go down and snack and eat or order food, and like that throws my nutrition strategy off. So a big like discipline I'm trying to develop right now is in bed 9, and like I stay to bed and I go to sleep in bed. So many times, like because you're training, you're just like, man, I need to eat more, and next thing you know, you're adding an extra 1,500 calories
Mm-hmm.
to your daily load.
Yeah, for sure. What does supplementation look like for you as somebody that's putting in so much impact? I also, real quickly, I do want to note for people the variance of percentage-based intensity, that 60% is relatively easy, which is sustainable, and 40% is maybe 75% rate of perceived exertion or above. And I think what's important there is there's 365 days in the year. 104 of those days are Saturday, Sunday. Scrap that for most people. And then you've got holidays, you've got sickness, you've got busyness, probably scrap another 50 to 80 days, somewhere in that mix. You're left with 100 and change for most people. And so within those days, if you're looking for sustainability, you can't go all gas, no brakes on all of those days. It's just too many days. As I love that you mentioned that 60-40 ratio as far as intensity in your sessions, because I think that's a very important takeaway for people to have consistency in their training, as opposed to thinking they should train hard, they tweak something, or they're so sore that they can't go back for 2 or 3 days later.
Yeah, one of the easy barometers, mental barometers on a subjective basis that I like to view easy versus hard days is easy days, I'm able to get in my own mind and reflect. On hard days, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just thinking like I'm 100% focused on what I'm doing right now because this is really freaking hard and I want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like just these 40%, 30% of the time, hard sessions, those I'm not thinking about work during, I'm not thinking about my family. I'm just thinking about exactly where I'm at. Whereas like my easy zone 2 or like math runs, 45 minutes, I could take a business set, a problem set, family set, and I could run with that for 45 minutes to an hour. And I'll typically come back with a solution. I think that barometer helps gauge the intensity quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever done like intervals at a track, you're not thinking about anything other than I want to finish this damn lap.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing there is there's conscious competence when you're under 60%, where you might be thinking a little bit about technique and trying to be a little present, but you're also processing and reflecting in the midst of breathing and getting a little bit physical. The other one is more unconscious competence, where you're just trusting yourself as an athlete. You're trusting your training up until that point, and then you're going with it and letting the cards fall where they may. With that being said, something that's come up with us a lot, Pete, and something that I'm really making a major priority within my life, my business, is this word faith. And we just hosted a men's retreat last week, and we do this contrast of masculine and feminine. And we see it a lot in the world. The masculine is like, take action, have discipline, stoicism, rah. And then the other side is like, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to feel, and I'm going to have faith. And we create this contrast between the two. But what's interesting is in our world, the word faith scares people because it typically comes with a religious connotation. I, like you, take pride and take time and action into prayer and meditation and having time with God. But there was a season in my life where I was like, I don't know if I really lean into that. I don't have buy-in there. I don't trust it. And then I was like, whoa, faith doesn't have to come with a religious dichotomy. It can just be trust. It can be, I have faith when I do this workout that I'm either going to look better, feel better, perform better, think better. And I think having that as a core value within everybody's operating system makes actions have a why, makes actions have true value. I'm doing this thing because of this. It's purposeful living. How have you navigated the word faith, as it's a huge part of you and your family? It's become a huge part of business, but I'm sure you have some people that give a little bit of pushback or distance from that.
It's interesting. I'm not going to give you an answer that you want here, but I haven't had any pushback on me being outward with my faith because I'm not preaching about it. Rather, I'm like, if somebody wants to have a conversation about it, I'm glad to. But to me, there's discipleship where it's like, hey, let's walk this together, and a lot of that happens through action. Like, that's how I prefer to view my faith. I don't know the Bible like a lot of my friends do. Yes, we do a Bible study here and there, but like you said, I believe that faith doesn't mean that you have to be religious, but you do need to believe with faith that there's something larger than you, and that life isn't just about you. There's this larger presence and larger, greater good that you are striving for. And I think that that's where faith comes back to. And to me, when I think about faith and like my role as a leader for our family and our business, specifically my family, is the 3 P's of protect, provide, and priest. And it's got to protect my family, make sure that we do the right things, we protect them from the wrong opportunities, do the right opportunities. You provide, right? Like, I have to provide a quality of life for myself and my family. And I have to priest, like, I have to be the leader of knowing that our family's gonna be grounded in faith, and that's what our values and principles are built off of. And so that keeps it simple for me. I'll share from time to time on my social media different faith breakthroughs, different takeaways I've had from Bible study. To me, I'm not afraid to share it because ultimately I don't really care about the amount of followers that I have. Like, yes, it's cool to have specific engagement and stuff, but ultimately, if that's not what you want to follow, then don't follow it. That's totally fine. I'm not doing it to increase my followers. I'm doing it because I think that there's an important takeaway impact that I have. And faith helps me, to me at least, provide a more influential impact that feels like the right way to approach things.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate you sharing that, because my relationship with faith was interesting. My father was the son of a priest. And so when I was young, he brought me, my brother, and my sister in and was like, hey, I'm not going to mandate that our family go to church, but here's a Bible. If you guys have any questions, like, feel free to ask me. You're welcome to go with your friends. And he kind of left it pretty open-ended. I found out later that was partially just because he observed so much hypocrisy in the church and from his father. He was like, I don't want to impose this on my children. I want them to kind of have their own journey. And so I kind of navigated it, maybe surface level, for a long time. And then life really got a hold of me where I was just getting beat down for 5+ years. And I kept asking, like, why is this happening? And then you come to realize life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And inevitably, like, if you can endure, just like you endure for the good things, and if you can endure the perceived bad things, when you're young, you think they're bad. But if you can endure that, you get to the other side and you're like, whoa, there's some really good things here, like the gratitude practice that you mentioned in the morning. You start to like shift your lenses to look over here rather than just looking over there. And then before you know it, you're like, whoa, I kind of like who I'm becoming. And I'd love to blame this on coincidence, but my plan wasn't executed at all. His plan was way better than mine. I just didn't know it yet. And I had to be an active participant to keep playing the game and keep trying to do the next right thing, even though it didn't always feel good. And so, yeah, very much like you, I'm very, very suggestive. I love asking people's relationship with faith or what that means to them. And I think different demographics probably hit the nail on the head differently. I think being further west, there's a lot more options and distraction than being in Ohio. And so people have so many different faith-based practices out here that are kind of labeled different things. But like you said, it's having that trust that you're moving in the right direction and you're trying your best to be outside of yourself and that there's something or someone out there greater than you.
Yeah. I struggle with, I mean, I would say coming into SISU, it was really my business partner that got me out of my shell. And then where I became active with my faith was when my dad went through a really awful health scenario where God basically just hit me upside the head a couple of times and was like, I am here and I'm going to help protect him and your family and you're going to be okay. But unfortunately, like we have to go through some shit to understand that like faith is God is a real thing. And again, I'm not saying like whether or not you're a believer or not. I think the most important thing is that stepping outside of your own self and understand that there is a larger presence. And like, if you are, if you believe that there's faith and you do have faith, that is all the momentum that you need to know that as much as you want your plans to happen, there's divine intervention, that there's probably a plan that you don't know about that's going to happen and you need to abide to that. To me, the way that looks is when I think of tasks or decisions, the way I know I'm on track is not asking, what do I want to do right now? I'll ask like, God, what do you want from me right now? And a lot of times God is calling me to suffer, which is totally fine. Like if that's what you're asking me to do, I will go through the trenches and I will do the hard right every single time. And then that will help me get the outcome that he wants, not what I want. And that's the lens that I view it through. And it makes difficult situations easy to navigate and hard. And I would say also like some of the biggest like life decisions, ones that are more rooted in the right things, the right values versus like the semantics and the status and the vanity of a decision, if that makes sense.
I like that take. One of the final things my father said before he passed, he couldn't talk a ton. I would ask him questions and he would like wiggle his toe this way for yes or wiggle his toe this way for no. And he like went like this in the final hours of him being alive. And similar to what you just said, he said, he whispered it and he goes, in life, there's givers and there's takers. And he goes, the givers sleep better at nighttime. And I love that you mentioned your conversation with God is, hey, what do you need from me right now? How can I give? What are you asking me? What are you calling me to do? What are you asking me to do? Rather than what I think is a hot take is a lot of people pray when they need something. They disengage from the relationship until something happens. They're like, oh, please help me get through this thing or help bless me and my family with X, Y, and Z. They're looking to be recipients rather than contributors. And I think if people view life that way, oftentimes I think the karma factory is going to reward them in some way, shape, or form.
And I would, to piggyback off that, I think God does ask us to view him that way sometimes. Like he wants us to go to him when we need things. Like that's so important.
Yeah.
But it's not a one-way street. So like those who only ask and ask and ask, but don't provide and don't give, that's where it becomes a one-sided relationship. And like, he knows that.
Very well said. Yeah. I appreciate you adding that context in because it's very important. How does cold exposure fit, man? When you're playing around with the sauna, we talked about 4 20-minute sessions over 176 degrees. Where does cold fit? I know oftentimes people use it in the morning to become alert and get that hit of adrenaline and that fight or flight, that cortisol release, so they can be alert and aware. And you also get that huge 500% dopamine release. But how does it fit with contrast, and how does cold fit within your processes and procedures?
So after my morning sauna session, I'll immediately do a 2-minute cold plunge and then move on with my day. I don't like doing longer than 2 minutes. It gets the job done for 2. I don't love the cold plunge, but I know what it does for me after.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's typically when I do it. And if I do like a multi-round contrast session once a week, just because I can't do those at night like I used to anymore with with the kids and where my wife's at pregnancy wise.
Mm-hmm.
Just takes time away from her and us. But that 3 rounds of sauna cold plunge, I'll always end on hot or end in the sauna when we're doing multiple rounds, especially prior to bed, because if I end a sauna cold plunge session on cold, my body is going to naturally heat itself up after the cold plunge, which is then going to make it harder for me to go to bed. Versus in the sauna, my body's going to naturally reduce its internal body temperature, which is going to mimic the same state that I would when I'm trying to sleep.
I made that mistake big time, like 5 or 6 years ago when I got into this. I'd be like, oh, I want to end cold because I want my body temperature down so I can go to sleep. I'd fall asleep right away because I was cold. And then I wake up 2 hours later just sweaty because my body was shivering to regain that core body temperature, like you said. I think ending hot at nighttime is ideal. Ending cold if you're in the morning is probably ideal.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I view cold plunging less from a recovery side, but more as like a cup of coffee.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to get a lot of energy and I'm going to feel a lot better. And my respiratory rate's good. Heart rate's low. I just feel very present.
The other thing I like about the cold is things that maybe will bother me don't bother me after the cold plunge. I'm like, I did the hardest thing that I'm probably going to do the rest of the day. Maybe not, but I like that story. It serves me pretty well. And then I'm like, somebody cuts me off in traffic, or, somebody does something that's very inconsiderate. I'm like, they probably got something going on. Like, I'm not going to judge them for it. It's just, it's falling off the backside. Like, I'm not really worried about it anymore. I have a lot more grace than I used to. And I think that's a little mini takeaway. Like you said, it's kind of a cup of coffee, but it's also just it's a little refinement in the headspace that like maybe makes you a little bit of a better human.
It for sure does. And it's really to me, cold plunging is the ultimate non-instant gratification device. You go in and you don't feel good at all. In fact, you want to get the heck out of it. You don't even want to go in the first place. Yeah. And then you have your reward, which typically is like 5 minutes after, not like directly after. Yes, there's like immediate dopamine rush, but I love that sensation 5-10 minutes after where I'm just clear and dialed. And while I don't think that you need to do cold plunging to like become a better person, I think it's a really good tool for it. Mm-hmm. And it's a really good, not only recovery tool, it's great for changing white fat to brown beige fat along the spinal column, which is really good metabolically active fat cells. That the only other time in life that we have a lot of metabolically active fat cells like that is when we're babies, which is why like we could eat so much and not add a single ounce of fat to ourselves. Like, yeah, there's a lot of really good health benefit, but I think a really good lifestyle rooted in good movement, quality relationships, sound, consistent sleep, some strength training, do the sauna, do the cold as needed, and just make sure you're pursuing something super purposeful. Like that's a pretty damn good life. It doesn't need to be like much more complicated than that. Totally. And the cold to me it's a really good tool. It's not a tool I use every single day. Mm-hmm. I try to accumulate about 11 minutes a week. So you're looking at around 5 or so days a week that I'll do the cold plunge for 2 minutes at a time or so.
Mm-hmm. I love the decrease in ego, right? Like everybody and their mom the last few years had to like video the cold plunge and like, I need everybody to know that I'm doing the biohacking. I'm like you, like I kind of count my breaths. I think about what do I need right now? There are times that I'll just do a dunk and I'll just kind of check in. Like, am I getting out of here? Is the cold forcing me out of here? Do I need to like really nuzzle in and focus on my breath because I've been fight or flight and sympathetic for a long time that I actually need to spend some time transitioning my nervous system into parasympathetic? And I loved Wim Hof really emphasizing get high on your own supply. because we breathe 20,000 times in a day, and sometimes we don't even think about it. It's just like high and tight up in the neck and the scaling. And the thing I do like about the cold is it creates just a presence and an awareness of like, hey, let me focus on my breath. And then when I do get that stressful email or that triggering phone call, I can go back to my breath. I can manage my physiology, and I can now respond instead of react. When you encompass all the things that you're doing, Pete, as a family man, a man of faith, a business owner, a high level athlete, a father, a husband, not in that particular order, what does breath work do for you? Is that something that you think about? Is it an awareness piece? Is it a tool that you touch on periodically? How do you stay so calm with all these different things pulling at your time and your attention?
And I think this comes back to our original conversation about monotasking. Focusing on one thing helps me stay calm and focused and present. The two times I really focus on my breath, not in terms of counting my breath, but very intentional breathing, is in the cold plunge, because I just don't like cold plunging, and like that's the way that I could like bypass time. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is counting my breath. And then second to that would be during prayer. Literally, I'll literally do a couple like breaths and just try to relax my face, relax everything, and just come to presence and then just feel. And I think that I don't do Wim Hof breathing. I don't do like crazy box breathing. But I do think that it's important that, especially, I feel it on the days like when I have so much caffeine, like from if I'm not careful with how much coffee I'm drinking, or if I had an energy drink with coffee, like I feel it and I feel my heart rate and my anxiety spiking. In those moments, I'll take a few minutes and just breathe. And I'm not necessarily focused on the retention. I'm not focused on the inhales, the exhales, but I'm just mindfully just breathing and trying to relaxing my shoulders, relaxing my posture, and not caring about anything for a second. And that's a really good way to unwind. And I think 2 minutes of that, if everybody did 2 minutes of just mindfulness every single day, the world would be a much more fulfilling and happier place.
It's so funny because today, throughout our conversation, the spice that we've added is that the greatest biohack is consistency. And what's so
Yeah.
fascinating is, go ahead.
Nobody wants to be consistent though.
I know.
You know, that's the biggest issue, is that nobody's in to be consistent for the long term.
Yeah, they want the quick. They want the thing now. And what's fascinating about that is if you look at our conversation today around carve out time for prayer and alone time before you just jump to the computer or the stocks. Move often at a relatively slow pace. Sprint or high intensity or lift heavy every once in a while. Eat real food the majority of the time. Foster meaningful relationships. Integrate some contrast therapy. Sauna consistently 4 by 20 a week, over 176 degrees. Cold plunge as needed. You don't really have to do more than 2 minutes, roughly 45 degrees. When you look at all that, and journaling was a big part of our conversation as well. When you look at all that, it seems like, dude, this is so simple. My question for all of you listening, why aren't you doing it? I leave a space there because wellness isn't a product. It's a practice. It's something you have to actively participate in. And all of the high performers that we speak to integrate this practice in some way, shape, or form consistently within their week. And so to get people to be more consistent, Pete, what would you share with them? Is it that time blocking? Is it non-negotiables? Where can they start to become more consistent?
I think people need to take more out of their lives, subtract and remove to simplify, and then you can become consistent. I feel like everybody's always thinking about what can they add in to become more consistent, and what new technology or new resource do I need to add, versus thinking what can I shift, what can I delegate, what can I completely purge and remove, so that way I could asphyxiate my attention on the highest priorities and the most simple processes that are going to allow me to be consistent the longest.
Yeah, man, that's money right there. If you guys get anything out of our conversation today. Take notes on that last little bit. As we finish up, Pete, the NBA's here. I'm stoked for it, man. My boy Austin Reeves dropped 51 the other night. Luka's crushing. Still waiting for LeBron to come in. I know have some LeBron either love or hatred over there being in Ohio.
Yeah, I love LeBron, man. Come on. You have to remember, I was 7 years old when he entered the league, and I had his high school St. Vincent St. Mary Irish jersey,
That's awesome.
like at home prior to him becoming a Cav.
Yeah.
Unreal. Like I went to school in Akron. That's where I met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And St. Vincent St. Mary is literally a mile away from there. So LeBron's my homie. But I'll tell you what, our Cavs are looking pretty good. I need them to get over the hump in the playoffs.
Yeah, Donovan
But
Mitchell's been unreal, man.
we have a really good, just really well-rounded team. 4 All-Stars, I believe. You've got some really good additions. Lonzo Ball actually looks really good
Yeah,
in
he
a Cavs
does.
uniform. I've always been a big basketball guy, but let's not talk about the Browns though. We won't even go there with football.
They
So
got to give Shadur a shot, man. Let the guy go out there and play a little bit, despite whatever perceptions there are. I mean, Brady had perceptions. Gilbert Arenas had perceptions in the NBA. Like, guys come in and this narrative seems to like loom over their headspace and their energy like a storm cloud. And it's like, it worked for these guys in their entire life. Let them go be Dennis Rodman in some capacity and see if it works. And that's something that I'm a little frustrated with in professional sports these days is everybody talks about skinny Luka right now. And like, yes, he needed to take care of himself a little bit, but like the dude was a walking double-double, averaging over 30, having beer sometimes. I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think like on the other end, like you look at like Zion Williamson, like he's leaned out too,
Yeah,
but he needed it for injury
for
purposes.
sure.
Like Luka getting injured. Um, we'll see. I mean, obviously Luka dropped 49 points, a game after Austin Reeves dropped 51 after Luka gave Austin Reeves shit
Hmm.
for going to the free throw line. He's like, you better hit these 2 free throws.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then Luka, he botches a free throw and stays at 49 points.
Yeah, totally.
But it's like, why change something if it ain't broken? I completely agree. But like we were saying earlier in the conversation, there's an important part of like evolution that everybody desires to become better. So it's like the next evolution of Luka's game is longevity of career.
For sure.
Obviously, he worked with LeBron's people, and next thing you know, this guy's coming in even sharper. So,
Yeah, I'm totally in alignment with you. Something that I think about often. How you go from A to B is not how you go from B to C. And if he wants to win a championship and he wants to be in the conversations with the Laker greats, it was a necessity for sure. As we're wrapping up, dude, what's going on with these gambling betting scandals? We got Chauncey Billups in the mix. I've always like respected him, but hated him because his Pistons beat my Lakers back in the day. And then you got like Rasheed Wallace coming out on a podcast saying that like a lot of the NBA is rigged. We're seeing, I think his name's Tom Donahue or one of the old referees that they've referenced. Tim Donahue, all these allegations. It makes you really wonder, are the speculations around Jordan back in the day leaving to go to the MLB, was his father killed associated with gambling? I don't know. It's a conspiracy. Did he step away because of gambling issues, or was it legitimately, trying to reconfigure his headspace and his love and desire for the game? And then we're seeing, what's the gentleman's name that was with the Miami Heat that got in trouble with the Charlotte Hornets that just got arrested?
is it Damon Jones?
Damon Jones got arrested, and then there's one more guy.
Can't think.
Yeah, I can't think of his name at the top of my head. But what are your thoughts on this, man? Like, it's a sport we grew up loving. And, there's money involved. Gambling's obviously probably similar to alcohol and other things in a form of addiction. What's going on behind the scenes and the affiliation with the mafia? It's like making me really wonder about all sports, especially looking at the Patriots dynasty, looking at what's happened with the Chiefs. Like, are referees involved in some of this stuff? And I can't help but wonder.
There's I'm not as educated as you probably are on the entire situation, but I think the principle of if there's too much of one thing, it's probably a bad thing.
Alan Watts.
And, yeah. And when you look at the amount of money that these athletes are paid without any like background of how to like nurture the amount of money and like steward the amount of money that they are getting paid. All that they know is that majority of athletes are great people, like literally great people, that have God given talents that they worked really freaking hard, really, really hard, and they got to become exceptional at their sport, and now they're getting paid justly. But it's like, how do I continue to be a good person through this process? And like all these people have always like taken on risk. Like, hey, I don't like Kevin Durant yesterday just came out on an interview talking about how he didn't have a plan B or a plan C or a plan D. He only had plan A, and he was only hell bent on plan A. I just want to become the best basketball player that I could possibly become. And that's majority of NBA players, majority of professional players. They don't have a plan B. They're not planning to go work for the family business after. They're not planning on going to corporate environment, starting a business. They just want to become the best baseball player, best basketball player. And when you really strip it back, man, it is a shame. Unfortunately, though, like these are like learning moments that I hope a lot of other professional athletes take note of. So like things like this don't happen, and that the league clamps down even harder on this and provides like the right penalty for it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like sports have always been like one of the largest entertainment vehicles for humanity ever since the start.
Mm-hmm.
And if it becomes too rigged, then you're going to look at a lot of backlash from that, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. The gentleman's name, by the way, is Terry Rozier.
Oh, dude, Terry Rozier went to Shaker Heights High School here in. I actually used to play against him in basketball here in Cleveland.
Oh, very cool.
Stud.
Yeah, he was a stud. He was a stud back in the day.
Terry.
He had a big contract too. That's what Charles Barkley was talking about with Shaq. He's like, if you're making over 10 mil a year, what's the return on investment over there? And then when I saw the mafia involvement, what I started to try to understand is, you see in politics probably like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to be assassinated, or we're going to come after your family. And it's fear-based motivation in order to do the thing that, you know, people that maybe you once trusted over here that felt like family or friends, now you're caught in a blackmail orientation, and hey, if you don't do the thing, you're going to be dead. And that has to be part of the conversation behind the scenes. It's very sad. But with us being close in age and in our 30s, man, we have to touch on, especially me being from the inner city of LA, we've got Russell Westbrook still playing, James Harden, DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, we've talked about, you know, LeBron coming towards the end. Paul George is from out here. He was from, it's a little bit out east, one of the desert places. Not directly in LA, but he eventually went to Fresno State. We played together a little bit on Pump and Run. But what's so interesting, man, is like a lot of those guys are starting to get to the tail end of their career, just like Steph, just like KD, just like LeBron. It's kind of going to be the end of an era. And we're starting to see conversations float to the surface. We're seeing Wemby. That dude's been a freak so far this year. Like Giannis times like Shaq times KD. I'm like, holy moly, this guy's like of a new breed.
Yeah, I think it's funny you bring this up, because yesterday I was driving to go get the kids, and I was thinking about that exactly. Was it feels like there's one, it was put in time of like, man, am I getting old?
Totally.
Like all these players that have been in the league for God knows how long, then you're like, wait, Steph's been in the league for 18 years or 16 years, whatever it is. Like, is that true? And then next thing you know, like LeBron, Lord knows what year he's in, like 20 something. And it shows you the perspective of time and how much changes and how much doesn't, you know? But I definitely think that the next era of basketball, like obviously in Cleveland, we've got a really young, hungry team. Evan Mobley's a stud.
It's from USC.
Yes, I love what's happening down in San Antonio. I've always been a Spurs fan. Like Wemby's incredible, but the one guy, man, that I'm excited to watch, and I'm curious to see how he's going to do in the league, is Cooper Flag. I think that he has the intangibles to be a really, really great player. He's going to have the opportunity to become one. We just haven't seen like that young, like North American, like white baller come in to just throw it down in a long time.
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what he does. And then the one the one team that completely blew me by surprise last year was the Indiana Pacers, and I thought that plot twist at the end of the season, where you had Jason Tatum go down on a torn Achilles in a Game 7 versus Indy. Indy goes and wins, and then in the ensuing series, Halliburton goes down on a torn Achilles as well. It's insane how like these two players that are the faces of their team aren't even going to be with their teams this entire year. They're losing an entire year. They're going to get paid, but it's like Indy was literally in the NBA Finals last year. That's not going to happen this year.
Yeah.
More than likely, more than likely.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see how like the landscape of the league could change on these young guys and the injuries and how quickly it could all happen.
Yeah. It's well said. Injuries of the Achilles are tough, man. I mean, Kobe was different on the other side. KD is obviously 7 feet tall, so he can kind of bump and bruise a little bit to elongate his career. But when you're like under 6'5", it's tough to come back from that. You don't have the same explosiveness. We saw it with Brandon Jennings. We saw it with John Wall. We saw that hip injury to Isaiah Thomas, Brandon Roy in his knee. I really do hope and pray that those guys can come back and still make it work because they're so talented. And I just hate for injuries to be the reason why somebody has to step away. But resilience is part of the game, and seeing how the body holds up, which is a huge testament to LeBron. I mean, 20-something years still doing it. With all the haters, like that's the other thing. The expectations placed on him have been so high, which is, I guess to say like the North American like white dude getting it done, you have to say Austin Reeves, but he was not drafted #1. So he didn't come in with all those expectations. There wasn't the footage playing with Team USA where he's getting buckets over Anthony Davis and this, that, and the other. So I think the expectations are going to be a little tough right off the bat. And also they don't have Kyrie right now. So he's having to play the point a little bit, and he's more of like a natural 2 or 3. And that's going to be tough for him. But I think it's going to be a growing year for him. I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year, to be honest. But I think as a byproduct, his long-term success is going to be good because he's going to be forced to develop a handle and forced to create his own shot versus the dude from, I think he's with the Sixers. I don't remember his name, but he's been getting buckets, dude. He's from NC State.
Right off the rip, he's been getting, I think the first game he went out and scored 30.
It's insane.
I think relatively speaking wasn't like a big name coming in. So some people are just made for the NBA and some people aren't.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm pumped. I'm going to start like a little text with you when I'm watching some of these NBA games so we can go back and forth. Because as you know, in fitness, not everybody's into sports. They're into their fitness and their runs and they're busy with everything that they're doing. But to be able to chop it up around sports is fun.
Dude, I don't know why. Like very few times have I met somebody and they're educated on anything like college football, basketball, MLB. I love chopping it up, man. Like that's our bread and butter. That's such a big part of my fabric is sports.
Yeah, same, man.
I love that.
What's next for SISU? What's kind of cooking? What's brewing inside the headspace? And what can we expect from the outside looking in?
SISU right now, we're becoming it's obviously we're staying in the sauna niche, but it's really the lifestyle around SISU and building resilience and doing it consistently over time. Like that's the lifestyle we're building around this. And so for us, that's where our product development continues to grow. Mm-hmm. So we have a simple sauna lineup. As we continue to move forward, we just launched our cold plunge. We have our outdoor showers releasing on a VIP basis between now and March, and then it'll go onto the website in March.
Nice.
Next month, our new website launches along with BFCM. And what I'm excited about is a patent pending sauna electrolyte.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
Which I'm very, very excited about. Super clean. It's a first to market electrolyte with L-citrulline, which is coming out as one of the best circulation and cardiovascular supplements for aiding recovery and aerobic health.
I loved your post recently around L-citrulline, and it's being a vasodilator and just helping with heart health and helping with full-on circulation, which I feel like that's something that's not talked about as often as it should be, but is a huge game changer for sure.
It is. And when you pair it with sauna, it's a recipe for longevity, which is key. So excited about that. So that launches next month. And then working on a couple prototypes for saunas for next year. and then potentially another cold plunge in the mix next year. And then we have a number of accessory SKUs, lifestyle products, limited merch drops, and then continue to do events and YouTube around what we're doing with SISU.
I love it, man. I admire what you're doing. I'm a fanboy over here. I'm learning from you. And don't be a stranger, man. I really appreciate you sharing a little peek behind the curtain as to the business development. I feel like round one, we really talked about your story and what SISU means and like how you developed the company. Now it was kind of getting into the intangibles of value systems and organization and leadership and how you view the various structures and pillars of the business. So I appreciate you letting us in to get a little BTS with you on the SISU vision.
Appreciate the opportunity as always, man. You always ask for really, really good questions, and I love to hear that things are going really well on your end.
Yeah, man. It's so fun over here. Where can people find you, man?
So you could find me, the most active account that I'm on is at Peter Nelson II on Instagram. And you can find us at our website, sisulifestyle.com, also on LinkedIn, Facebook. And then if you Google Pete Nelson SISU, there's a YouTube channel and then other podcasts and whatnot that we've been on.
That's great, man. If you guys enjoyed my conversation with Pete Nelson today and you want to change your life and get yourself into the sauna game, check out SISU Sauna. They make some of the best sauna products on the planet. They've absolutely changed my life. I'm very thankful and appreciative for our friendship, man. Somebody to chop it up on the realm of the NBA and college football and all the things that are still fun, no matter how many years we are removed from it all. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Pete today, please rate, review, subscribe, and as always, share with your friends and stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time. Thanks, Pete.